anything before I take the lead here?
Just welcome everybody and thank you for coming. And I hope that you get something out of this. We, as the health committee has been looking into things and doing things, we've discovered that we see CHF all the time, and none of us really understood who they were, what they do, and how much they can impact the health of our breed. So we wanted to get that message out to everybody, and that's why we're having this seminar. So hi, Becky. I can't
Hello.
see everybody, so if I haven't said hi to you and I know you, sorry. But thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to go on mute, which will probably make everybody deliriously happy, and let Andrea take this over. So thanks all.
Great. Well, thank you all for having us digitally here and that we can get together. I'm Andrea Fumafredo, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Canine Health Foundation. And I'm joined, we had a little switch in our roster, but I'm joined by Fleming Samuels, who is our Director of Philanthropy. So you've got two of us staff here. I'm going to go ahead and speak a little bit about, Sue and I talked ahead of time, kind of how you can partner with the AKC Canine Health Foundation, a reintroduction for those of you who are not as acquainted, and then we'll move through everything. So disclaimer, since you guys are recording this, I just wanted to share the disclaimer that the views expressed are those of myself, not the breed clubs, and it just offers information on canine health research and donor advice funds for educational purposes only, not providing any veterinary or financial advice, and of course, consult a veterinarian or a financial advisor for those recommendations. All right, so business out of the way. Here's kind of an outline of what we're going to go over today. I'll reacquaint everyone with the mission of the Canine Health Foundation, talk about the goals of the organization and some of our achievements. Then we'll move on to the work that we do for dogs, the fun stuff. So our research and our grants, how you can partner with us, and what we like to chat about a lot with all of you. And then we'll discuss a little more specifically the research that is relevant to Spinoni, as well as the Donor Advised Fund, which was a topic of interest expressed. So the mission of the Canine Health Foundation is to advance the health of all dogs and their people by funding scientific research and supporting the dissemination of that. And our goal is to prevent, treat, and cure canine diseases. We were founded in 1995 by the AKC and have been dedicated to this mission since then. We solely exist for dogs. It's great to be a part of an organization that is committed to their well-being. So how does that look like for everyone here? The foundation goals are kind of broken into three components. The first one is we find and fund the best research, and it is a diverse portfolio of canine health concerns, and many have comparative benefits for humans. So we call that a One Health lens. We also then select and monitor through a rigorous scientific process those grants. So we really are very careful in how we steward the funds and donations that come into the organization to make sure we have the most impact on canine health. And then, of course, none of that work would be particularly meaningful if we didn't communicate it out to folks like you, to pet owners, veterinarians who can put it into practice, and then, of course, back to the researchers who are continuing that momentum for the work in the field. So if I break that down, because that's a lot of words, really what we're doing is research, caring about dogs, and hopefully telling people about that. So the next couple parts will be broken down into that. So we're a grant-making organization, which means that we dole out money, awards to institutions that are doing research. Each of those institutions has a principal investigator that is leading that. So someone who's our point contact to do that. We are located in North Carolina, which is the city of Oaks, and is Raleigh, North Carolina, sorry, is the city of Oaks. And so we talk about our grants like trees, not dogs, which is a little atypical, but you can understand it where our roots are laid. So our Acorn grants are a smaller seed project that is a pilot study, something to really start someone's hypothesis, test things out before we grow it into what we consider an Oak grant. So those are financially more investment. They are often longer clinical trials and studies that are really dedicated to a bigger question. And then we also have a couple of opportunities for breed-specific and donor-supported research, as well as educational opportunities. So residency programs, that's trained clinicians in a specialty, area of specialty. Right now, there's theriogenology, so the study of canine reproduction, and then sports medicine and rehabilitation, which is a newer specialty in veterinary medicine, but one we feel very passionate about to help all dogs live an active life as well as working dogs. We also invest in fellowships, and a fellowship is just kind of a post-secondary training for individuals, and it really shows how we are investing our funds in the future of canine health researchers, and so spurring the kind of the next generation of who we want to be doing the work that we are so dedicated to funding. Besides research grants, kind of this person sitting in the lab or running a clinical trial, we also understand that there are resources that are needed to put this work out. One that you are probably all familiar with is that CHF was a partner in establishing CHIC with OFA. And so that was a partnership about 22, 23 years ago now. And we also will invest in other areas like the Canine Comparative Oncology Genomics Consortium, where we were able to ensure that our researchers have access to tumor biorepositories, obviously the DNA that's available at CHIC, and then other consortiums. So we really try to make sure that not only are we investing in the work that the researchers are doing, but they have the resources to enable them to meet their goals. So we can't do any of this without our key stakeholders, and we have a really unique body of constituents. It's kind of amazing, the people that are surrounding dogs, but not that surprising. And so if our goal is healthy dogs, we really need a number of people to help us achieve that goal. So the first and foremost, which I mentioned, are researchers and scientists, the folks that are doing the work. We also have the dog-loving public. Basically, anyone who is committed to dogs is certainly committed to our mission. We have folks like you, our dog clubs and breeders, who are so dedicated to the health of their breed and have spurred the foundation since its founding in 1995. And then, of course, the people that are able to put this into practice, so the veterinary professionals. And we're very sensitive to the topic of doing outreach to both veterinarians and veterinary technicians and all professionals to ensure that we're amplifying the work that we do. So it is kind of a sampling of individuals, but it's a really powerful group when we all surround our interest and motivation around improving the health of dogs. So if we look at the health of dogs, we kind of approach it as a whole body, big or small, approach to funding our research. And so we have broken our portfolio into different research program areas that really encompass the different systems of dogs. That's anything from endocrinology or neurology to cancer and liver and kidney health. So we really try to make sure that we're tackling all the diseases that can affect any dog out there. Currently, we have $13 million that's distributed worldwide that is doing work for dogs. What that actually means is we sit here and manage 160 different grants. So it's 160 different principal investigators, individuals who are running work at their labs and really dedicated to hopefully a scientific goal that changes and improves the lives of dogs. How we choose those areas is really talking to folks like you, looking at areas of unmet need in veterinary medicine, looking for emerging diseases, and then understanding opportunities for advancement that could really change and impact the field. So how we do that, our business, right, is grant making, and that's kind of an all-encompassing word, but what does it look like? And it really is a soup to nuts problem of finding the best research and then getting it approved. And that process starts with understanding those research needs. So as I mentioned, we really are keeping a pulse on everything that is happening in canine health. And then we put out a request for proposals, and these may be very specific on a topic. Right now we have something on active dogs, so things related to osteoarthritis, musculoskeletal conditions. It may be related to aging or cardiology. So a vast array of topics are put out to specific researchers throughout the year. A researcher is then invited to submit a proposal on that specific topic, and we look at it to make sure that it is in line with eligibility rules that we have in place. Once that's done, it goes out to what we call peer review, which is basically saying the best people in that field, we want you to take a look at this research topic and let us know what you think about it. It runs very similar to what you might all be familiar with, which is the NIH. So same process with the human health studies, we're doing that with canine health. So once it goes through the peer review process, we have a core group of reviewers called our scientific review committee. They are a varied group of talented and dedicated individuals who are here to review, assess, and ensure the significance of the research proposals that are coming into the foundation, and then making recommendations to our board for funding and award of that. So we still have good board oversight. We have experts externally and internally assessing our grants. And once that is all complete, we do our job, which is administering that grant. So as I mentioned, we kind of have these early pilot studies or acorn grants that seed into an oak grant. And an early study might be only a year long, but an oak grant could be 2 to 5 years. And during that lifetime, we're really working to ensure that the goals are being met, that the funds are distributed to give the resources to those investigators, and that we're communicating everything that's happening along the way. So I've talked a little bit about this, but here are some details on our grant administration. The first, of course, is that we've really ensured that there's scientific merit and impact for canine health. That's why we have so many people as a part of that review process and who are really committed to ensuring that our funds are distributed to the most impactful studies. We also confirm humane treatment of dogs and owners in the studies. We have a very rigorous process to ensure that it has the dog's best interest at hand for any sort of inquiry or study. And then, of course, this is where we really shine, is that we're accountable for the research and the expenditures to it. And so we monitor that grant progress. We kind of keep the carrot out in front of the researcher to ensure that they're making progress on what they've dedicated and indicated would be their goals here. I hear many stories from other clubs that may have given dollars directly to a researcher, and the intent is so wonderful and good, but often it's really hard to kind of manage those communications or ensure that the progress on those studies are moving forward. But our advantage is that we're established to do that. That's literally what we sit and do every day. And so we can really ensure that the stewardship of funds is going directly to the research for dogs. The second part of that is that we facilitate communications between all parties. And that's kind of a vague statement, but it may be from one researcher to another. We might want to say, can you share samples? Can you help them, reach their goal a little quicker? That might be enrollment into a study. That might be something that they have kind of stored on the side. That may be connecting them with CHIC, which is a great advantage of us founding it a couple decades ago. We also make sure that if you're a sponsor of the research, that you're hearing what's happening. So research is kind of this intangible thing often, right? And we want to make sure that you're a part of that progress. And so we continue to update anyone who sponsors a grant as frequently as we hear from the investigators. And I think that is a really incentivizing component of the process, and it makes you feel a part of it. Another way to be a part of it is through study participation. So if it is a clinical trial or things needing DNA, blood, cheek swabs, blood samples, that sort of thing, you may be eligible to participate. And that really helps progress the studies that are here at the foundation. So not only do we benefit from a financial investment, but also from just your participation, support, and awareness. And then we, as a nonprofit, keep costs down. So often if you give directly to an institution, they have an overhead that is 50 to 60%. Some of you may be academics and know that it is the cost to keep the lights on, to keep the bathrooms clean, and so forth, which is great and definitely a valuable investment. But with CHF, we want to make sure that your dollars are going directly to the work for dogs. And we have a very low 8% administrative overhead in comparison to that 50 to 60%. So it is definitely a feather in our cap to talk about that. So how can we partner with clubs? This is definitely a core of how the organization was formed and how we are continuing to work with all of you. And it starts with, and Sue, you were a great foster of this, communication and collaboration. We want to speak with all of you. And there's different ways to go down the path from here. You may have diseases and health issues that you're very aware of, and they may cross over and be very specific and limited to your breed, or they may be something that is relevant to multiple breeds. And so What can you do? One is supporting research, either through the direct sponsorship I mentioned, or through another path, which is through a breed-specific and funded research. So we basically, you are the experts in your breed, and we are the experts in grant making, and we get to do a matchmaking process with a researcher on a specific issue that may be faced with your breed, and go through the whole scientific review, make sure it's a very robust study, and then invest your funds wisely in something that is of benefit specifically to your breed. As research tends to do, and especially with dogs, that probably benefits other breeds, which is really, really great, but that is initiated by your club. So we have, again, that active portfolio of 160 grants around the world, and then we have opportunities that can be more catered to you. And we are here as staff to talk about all those options. So that's a kind of in-depth look at our research. I want to talk a little bit more about how the impact has been for dogs since our founding in 1995. We are the largest funder of research focused solely on canine health, which means we've invested over $70 million since 1995. We have supported over 1,100 studies since then, and that has resulted in over 80 genetic tests and 1,000 publications. And publications is something that it either means something to you or not. But what I can tell when I say 34,000 citations, you may hear one great thing I say today, hopefully two, and you may pass that on to someone. And that passing it on is essentially the citations. It's really what is propelling communication of those impacts and those results. And so that's a really significant number. It's really demonstrates the kind of the momentum and the legs that our research has. And of course, as you can see on the heat map on the right, dogs are helped globally. This is just a smattering of institutions that we have funded worldwide, over 125 institutions. And on the right, in the top right, is a representation of all the breeds by breed group, that have had a outcome from research funded by CHF. So you guys are up there in the top right, but you can see about half of it is dedicated to all dogs, and then half of it is breed specific, and a pretty good representation by sporting group there. Other contributions to the field. So I kind of talked about the esoteric publications, which is really great because that is like fuel on the fire for the researchers that are moving the field forward. Intellectual property comes up a lot as a result of the research, either in the form of the genetic tests I mentioned, or vaccinations, other things. I already discussed the research networking. So how can we collaborate and really provide a network for researchers in order to amplify what they're doing, quicken the pace of research and get some more outcomes for dogs that translates directly to the clinic. We really fostered a centralization of samples with our investment to CHIC. So that is available to all our researchers and has certainly paid off. And your participation with that is definitely an asset. We communicate to the club on all of the outcomes that come from our research, whether it's through our newsletters, our website, or any direct communications to health liaisons. And then we hold conferences and have educational resources, which I'll get into in just a moment. So the communication out is really, really vital. We could do all this work, but if we never shared it, I don't know how much it would change the lives of dogs. And so we're very intentional about how we communicate to each of you, and to, as we saw in the beginning, that varied group of stakeholders. We do that through a number of ways. We have webinar series, which it's available for any kind of lay audience member, but it often comes with a continuing education component, which means that veterinary professionals can get credit for attending that. So we really run the gamut of the expertise and the topics, and it tends to go quite well, although you can imagine the spread of information and availability there. We stay up to date on infectious diseases and have a number of fact sheets and resources regarding that. Of course, it was big with the spike last summer and a respiratory disease, and we try to stay on top of our communications about that and be a resource as things emerge. We often have articles on study progress, as I mentioned, and also publications. So anytime there's a positive outcome from our work, something that you want to hear about for your dog, or you might want your veterinarian to know, these are all shared as soon as they come out in order to do the most good. We also, of course, advocate for that study progress with participation in clinical trials, and are here to serve you, as I mentioned, for any breed-specific or club questions. We try to segment everything kind of by breeders, veterinary professionals, dog owners, and researchers. So you should be able to get yourself somewhere on the website, but if you can't, we are here to help and absolutely love and welcome a call to help you figure out what you need. I wanted to speak a little bit more to veterinary outreach. I don't know if we have any veterinarians on the call, but it's definitely something that we spend in our time on. Our veterinary professional audience is very important because we want these outcomes to be in the clinic. We do that through a newsletter that's directly to veterinary professionals, and it indicates anything that might change their practice now. So a great one circulating is the risk of chlorine exposure and bladder cancer, a very timely outcome that has surfaced. We're joking that it has caused some ripples for this summer's information, but it's something that we want everyone at their practice to know. And then we also attend a lot of conferences and make sure that we're partnering with the folks that are doing our research, but also the ones that are implementing it. I wanted to mention to all of you, as your introduction to us, we also hold a conference. It is the National Parent Club Canine Health Conference. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but that is its name. And it is actually going to be held for our 30th anniversary here in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, next August. I encourage you all to come, or at least send a representative. It is an opportunity for all our key stakeholders to network. So we have 15 or more researchers who come to speak on the work that CHF has funded. And we get together with parent club representatives, breeders, veterinary students, and others, and really have a great time showcasing the work that has happened and also featuring researchers that have a really significant impact on dogs. So put that on your calendars. So I'll get into how you can get involved and what you can do now. And I think there are two kind of key points we discussed ahead of this. One is, how can you support canine health research? And the other one was more information on utilizing your donor advised funds. So in supporting canine health research, it's really important because it advances the understanding and treatment of all canine health issues. And it enables us to develop innovative therapies and preventive measures. So it's a really proactive approach to our current dog's health and the health of future dogs. Your contribution certainly matters. Your contribution will help us address emerging and important health topics. So we recently awarded a grant on the canine respiratory disease, infectious respiratory disease, after it emerged last summer, and we're able to respond to that very rapidly with support. It also allows researchers to make these meaningful discoveries, and of course promotes the long-term health and well-being of our companions. So I wanted to highlight 3 specific grants that would be of interest to the Spinoni. One is a really fun grant. I call it Detection for Dogs by Dogs, and it is out of the University of Pennsylvania. So this is you guys getting a little bit more of a glimpse on some specific studies that we fund here. So Dr. Otto is an amazing individual at the Penn Vet Working Dog Center. She has a great history with the foundation and in what she has done with canine health. She's notably one of the first researchers to do a surveillance study on dogs. She was out with FEMA at the 9/11 attacks and basically looked at the health of all dogs from when all dogs that responded to those incidents from when they started all the way through their lives. And the really hopeful message is that those dogs did not have any medical event as a consequence of that. Because they were so fit, active, really engaged in their lives. I know that's not the same story as humans, but I think it speaks to the resilience of dogs. She has now moved on from that surveillance study. The last dog, I believe, was lost in 2018. And she is looking at training detection dogs to be biosensors for hemangiosarcoma. So the current state is, and if anyone has been affected by that, I know you understand that hemangiosarcoma is an aggressive cancer in dogs and has a quick and high mortality rate. The goal here is to see what is that unique odor profile, and is it detectable by trained dogs? The goal of this and the impact, which I think is really genius, is that it's a really non-invasive way to detect this, and could be used for screening, early intervention, and hopefully improve the survival rates of dogs. So if any of you have a working dog or involved in any other kind of scent related sport, I think you know they have an amazing nose, and it would be really great for them to participate in their own healthcare. Um, if any of you saw in early COVID, I think Europe started bringing out dogs to go to the airports and test for COVID. And so here, it's kind of the same application, or where you see a diabetes alert dog and that sort of thing. They've had some great proofs of concept, and hopefully they will be successful with this. Quite honestly, I'd rather have a dog check me out than a clinician. So, all right, the next one is from Dr. Peter Muir. I had to put his photo here because he's a fun guy. And he's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And he recently had great success just a few years ago studying cruciate ligament rupture. And he did this in Labrador retrievers. So the benefit of breed specific work, which I've mentioned a little bit here, is that it's a really confined group of dogs and a gene pool. And so in doing that, he was able to assess a genetic test for risk of developing cruciate rupture. Now what he's looking at is how can I apply that to more dogs, right? So whenever you kind of study something breed specific wise, there's always the opportunity to amplify it. And so now he's looking at it polygenic risk, which is just multiple genes for different breeds. The goal hopefully is that he will be able to predict that with other breeds, and that there can be an opportunity to address environmental risk factors, obesity, rehabilitation, and possibly early surgical treatment, so you're not doing a full replacement.
Oh.
All right. And then the final one, and hopefully you guys noticed, the past two grants have been about $70,000 or $100,000, and this one's $11,000. And again, it kind of speaks to the range of the grants we fund. So this is that ACORN grant, that early grant, and it is out of the University of Pennsylvania. And Dr. Brito is using AI, which it's here, and we're definitely embracing it in our research. And he is using AI to look at sperm morphology. So this came out of human medicine. Sperm clinics and fertility were being assessed by AI. And what they did is they took the same idea and said, what can we do for dogs to help stud dog selection? So they will take a database of 10,000 dog sperm images and just use AI to pattern recognition the classifications of that sperm. And hopefully what that'll allow is more reliable stud dog selection, better semen analysis, and hopefully improving infertility diagnosis, prognosis, and just better reproductive safety overall. So I like that one. All right, so that is the research. I want to talk a little bit about activating the donor advised funds, which was
Mark wasn't too thrilled to go up with all those people.
No.
About it.
Can I interrupt for a second? Somebody
Yes,
out
Sue.
there, somebody out there is talking. Would you please all put yourselves on mute? Whoever's talking, we're hearing you. We don't want to. Sorry. Put yourself on mute. Please. Sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
You're good.
Too.
I can't seem to find who it is. There's one more. All right. I've got everyone.
There's one more. It's Fred's iPad is the one that needs to be muted, I think.
I don't see it. Hang on. I don't see Fred's iPad. Maybe that's why. Let me go to my next screen. There we go. All right. Okay, thanks, Fleming. All right, so donor advised funds. Some of you may have them as individuals or not, but we have a Spinoni Club of America donor advised fund that's held here at CHF. And that may be a new awareness to you, but I'll let you know how it works. First of all, I'll talk about the benefits of it. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, the Canine Health Foundation, which means that any contributions to us is a tax deductible gift. So that is a great benefit. If you give to the Spinoni Club of America Donor Advised Fund here at CHF, it is tax deductible. The Spinoni Club of America Donor Advised Fund is also set up for flexibility and control. So when it was established, it allows your organization to maintain advisory privileges on how those funds are distributed research. So a great example is you saw a little sample platter of a few grants. If you wanted to distribute funds from your donor advised fund to that, that is at your discretion and timing. And it's really wonderful because it allows you to maximize your impact. You may want to put money into it to do a breed specific research. You may want to just do a disbursement annually. And it really depends on what is aligned with your breed's health, with your organization values, and the goals that you all have together. But ultimately, it amplifies your charitable impact through your strategic and thoughtful giving. And then the additional element of it is that it is benefiting from the Purina Parent Club Partnership Program. So your participation in that program ends up earning even more dollars than your own contributions to that donor advised fund. So I wanted to speak a little bit more about that, Sue. I know we had talked about it. This is a small slide. I realize I put a scan me there to get you right to the page, but the Purina Parent Club Partnership Program, we have lots of great acronyms that are very long. That is a program with Purina. If you are a Purina Pro Club member, then you are raising points based on the food that you feed. And if you put the weight circles, it used to be cut out. So you guys remember cutting out your UPCs. Now it's scannable. But if you participate in that, scan the weight circles that are being used, and then it goes to Purina, and they will at the end of the year disperse based on your activity an amount to your club directly, half of that, and then the other half goes to the donor advised fund at CHF. So the half that goes to your club is for educational outreach, judges education. I am sorry, that does not involve gin and tonics. And then it goes the other half to CHF for specifically research. But again, because it's in your donor advised fund, it is there at your discretion and advice. So it can be used very intentionally to how you want it to do. So I encourage everyone, if you can, there's a couple caveats to being a Pro Club member. You have to admit you have 5 or more dogs and cats, or you are a breeder. But other than that, your participation racks up those points and those dollars for you to do efforts on the club side and then on the CHF side. So those are the elements I wanted to cover, and I left the other half of this hour for questions. And I know I probably reviewed that fast. So I'm happy to revisit anything.
So now if anybody has a question, you have to take yourself off mute to ask it. I guess I'll try to kick this off. Let's say we come up with, let's talk about seizures in Spinoni, and I say seizures as opposed to epilepsy because there's lots of reasons for seizures. If we wanted to get a study going specific to our breed for that topic, I'm just throwing that out there. How would we go about doing that? What kind of money would we look at? What are the initial steps to get a research project going that is Spinoni specific?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll add a couple things. That is our breed specific grant process. It has we call it an MOU because a memorandum of understanding, an agreement, a contract is made between CHF and your club. And so what we would do is identify specifically that research question, would define it a little bit more, right? And then we'd go find a researcher who would be able to address it. And we'd ask for a letter of intent. It's basically 2 pages, and it says, this is how I would approach that problem. This is what it would cost me. Frankly, it never costs less than $10,000. And then it has kind of a range upwards depending on the goal of the project and the duration. Once we do that, you guys can say yes or no. Do you want to pay to play? And then we would move forward carrying out our grant making processes. Same scientific review process, everything that I went over to ensure that really we're stewarding your funds with the best research. So that's the general outline of that process. The great thing is you can use your donor advised fund towards that. And so you guys have a balance of about $4,600 right now in that donor advised fund, primarily from your participation in the PPCP.
To add on to Sue's question, hi, this
Yeah.
is Tina. Do clubs have a better success rate if they are asking for something that's breed specific or group specific? Like if we were like, we're really interested in knowing that within, I don't know, Italian breeds, or we're interested in knowing that in the sporting group. Like what do you recommend in terms of trying to get that research kicked off?
Yes, it depends on the research question. So a great example, if there's a study on like dilated cardiomyopathy or kind of a sudden cardiac arrest, and people want to know it in the bourgeois, but it's really better in sighthounds because of the genetics, that's going to be kind of, it comes down to the researcher. So I can't quite answer it. What I will say is we absolutely encourage clubs working together to kind of amplify what they do. So we've definitely had 6 or more breed clubs come together for an effort on a big like clinical trial for hemangiosarcoma, for example. So it can kind of work both ways. What we maintain is that the combination is the best to answer that scientific question. Does that help?
Yep, thank you.
Of course.
Can we ask you to look at research that's being done overseas and possibly directing funds towards that?
Can you
There's
say it
some
again?
ongoing research in the UK on Spinone epilepsy.
So the support for research has to be to CHF funded research. So
Okay.
if it's done at another institution or funded by another organization, you can't disperse at least the donor advised funds for it. Of course, you can do whatever you like, but anything through this organization has to be to CHF funded work because that has kind of the merit and the vetting that we've done through our scientific processes.
But you could potentially fund research in the UK.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
There's someone specific at the CHF that deals with our account that would, say we had a list of possible research goals or, things that we want to get involved with. We know, hey, if there's a study that's going on that has these keywords involved, the Spinone Club may want to be involved. Is there someone that's able to alert us before that starts so that we can join? I feel like sometimes we get behind the 8 ball and these studies are already going, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love the proactive approach. There's definitely us here on staff. Fleming is here to serve as a liaison as well. But if you identify key areas of interest, then we want to be able to communicate those back to you. So absolutely.
Is there somebody specific, like assigned to the Spinone Club that we would contact?
You can contact Fleming or myself.
Okay, that's
Yep.
And I'm sorry, Andrea, I just wanted to point out, I'm also here as a support role for Andrea, but as a support role for any fundraising efforts that y'all have that you want to do. Andrea's done a great job, and I'm so happy to be part of the team here that she's created great ways to do match challenges, and we've been successful with other clubs doing email campaigns. And so it's a great way, and my job is to help you be successful in your goals.
Is there a minimum requirement for our own study just for Spinone? Like, is there an amount that I think you mentioned 10,000 would be a starting point, but
Yes. Yeah.
realistically, where does it actually fall?
It could be close to that, or it depends on the research question.
Yeah.
That's kind of the minimum for us to administer it. It's obviously quite an administrative burden. We like doing it, and so it's not really burdensome, but there's time dedicated to it. And so research is not cheap, but a lot of things, especially genetics related, is getting cheaper. So the spectrum of grants could be anywhere from, I would say, 15,000 to 80,000. It just depends on the question that's being approached and what can be used to resource it.
If we wanted to do a group study with, like, as Sue said, on seizures, would we be able to go to you if we said we want to team up with 4 other clubs if possible, and you would know who is genetically similar, who wants to do it, or do we have to do that on our own?
So it kind of comes up 2 ways. It's a great question. Either way is possible. So you might be having conversations because you ran into someone, or it's, it's on a delegate listserv, or, a number of ways. Alternatively, we're always here to kind of foster that collaboration. And so we can help make connections and recommendations. We can't twist anyone's arm, but we can at least foster the start of that relationship to see if there are interested parties. So absolutely here to help connect that. Because the ultimate goal, I think it's still mission aligned. It's really making, advancing the health of dogs. And so we really want to help you move that forward.
Thank you.
Sure.
What
Andrew,
percentage
go
would you say of parent club are involved with CHF? Like,
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part. Go ahead.
what percentage, or kind of how many, say, sporting breed clubs are involved actively with CHF?
Yeah, almost all 210 are represented for breeds and breed clubs. Yeah, it's we get them all, and we are grateful for that.
So this is Sue again, kind of building on what Kim was asking about earlier. If there's ongoing research in the UK, and this is just hypothetical, okay? So let's say they pick a subject, I'm going to say seizures. It's ongoing, but now they're running out of money. Can we say, okay, now we want to fund that to keep it going? How do we get involved with what's already going on, but they're out of money and we want to fund it? Is that possible to do that?
It would still start with, like, thankfully, the good and bad thing about the Canine Health Foundation is we start with science, end with science. So you can say that, but we would still need to see a scientific proposal and kind of go through those efforts, right? We're here to find and fund that research. And so without the scientific proposal, we can't, you might be able to add on, but we wouldn't know until we saw that. Does that answer it?
Yeah, and so if,
It's like,
you know,
yes-ish.
yeah, no, so if they say, okay, we're working on this, we've gotten this far, here's our goals, here's where we've gotten, here's what we've done, this is what we need to continue. And if we need to call it a new study, we don't care, we can do that. But we're
Yes.
going to already have some of that work already there. It sounds like that if they just provide that information and say, this is our continued goal, this is where we're headed, this is what we've done, it would be potentially possible for us to take over the funding of that. And now it becomes a research project that we're doing.
That if you went through the process, that MOU process, the breed specific and initiated grant process,
Right.
then it would be a CHF funded grant award to that investigator with funding and support by the club.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would that investigator then fill out, say they fill out like an application for an Oak grant? How does that, like, stepwise would work for them?
So because this would be something that's facilitated by the breed club in your interest, we would go through that process of doing a letter of intent first.
Okay.
Right. So that's kind of you saying you're committing to this investment with this researcher. And then we say, great, what does that look like scientifically to make sure that's robust? The process itself for any applicant, once that's invited or that's moved kind of through and we've done our negotiations on how that looks, is it's a very robust process of looking at preliminary data, putting your methods, looking for any kind of mitigations of anticipated obstacles, adverse events, a deep literature review. So that's the proposal elements that they're looking at. And then it would move through that review and be assessed by our experts.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Sure.
And how do we know if they're not already enrolled with CHF?
You'd have to get, I can verify it. For you. Absolutely, we can. Yeah, we probably wouldn't give double the dollars to them. So we definitely make sure that they don't have prior funding or concurrent funding at our organization or another. So we try not to let anyone double dip, so that we can make sure our funds are going out the door to the right folks for more work.
So, this is Sue again, talking about money, because I think this is a really crucial point that we learned when we had our, Nikki and I had our conversation with you ahead of time. Can you explain to the folks on this call the money? We have this huge return from investment. Can you talk about how we're making the dollars work better through CHF? Nikki, you know what I'm talking about if I'm not asking the question right.
No, I think that was it, that there was, so the money that was in there that was then allowed to roll over. Last year's investment portfolio was excellent. I would love to know who does your investment, because it is high rates of a return. I know that they go into high risk because it's high, but it's also very high return. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I was gonna say, I see Chris Sweetwood on here. He probably knows who we use for our investments. The donor advised fund is held here at CHF and is invested according to our investment policy. And it
Okay.
does. Oh, did someone start to talk? Okay. And so it does end up being, it's not too risky. Our policy states, kind of the parameters that it is within. And then our investors are watching it accordingly. So the great benefit is that usually you get a return kind of 2 to 8%, I'd say, each year on that. That's not a firm number, as each year wildly varies depending on a lot of things I don't control, or none of us do. But it does end up pretty favorable. So any money that you are putting in the donor advised fund, and that is tax deductible when you do that, then is invested and hopefully has returns each year. This year is also looking quite favorable if you've seen your statements come out to you. So it's a great benefit, because at least if you're not doing and putting that money to work, it's at least working for you so that you can put it to do more work in the future.
It sounds like also the fact that you all are a 501c3 is helpful. SCOA is not. So if people wanted to donate to the health of a Spinone, they actually would be better served by donating the money directly to CHF, A, because it's tax deductible, B, because you're doing this investment, C, you're taking care of the administration of all of these grants. So really, in a lot of ways, like, it's just a smarter way for us to invest our money if we want to invest directly in health.
Totally. And so some organizations, some clubs have their own arm that can do that, and some don't. And that's actually one of the reasons the donor advised fund started here at CHF, is because you have this way to kind of put your money in a tax deductible way. So it's absolutely a benefit. Fleming, do you want to add to that?
I was just going to say, Andrea, you're exactly right. And also, you open yourself up to more channels of funding, because people can leave you qualified charitable distributions that you wouldn't be able to accept if you're a C4. So people who have IRAs that they're making distributions from, you can have them direct them to your DAF, which you wouldn't be able to do. You can't direct them to the club. And then also, if people have their own giving foundations, they can only donate those to C3s. So then you could actually have them direct it to your donor advised fund at CHF. And so you're opening up 2 more channels that are accessible to people.
And it's still dedicated to Spinones, which is really great, right? So that donor advised fund still has that specificity and designation that's really consistent with your intent. What else can we answer?
I actually have a question for Sue and Nikki. Have there been initiatives in the past or times that we've dispersed or put money behind things that CHF has done, or is it kind of new to us still?
No, we've done it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Becky can probably answer that better. Go ahead, Becky.
I was gonna say, yes, we have used those. When I was treasurer, towards the end of each year, I would talk with the health committee and see if they wanted to disperse funds from that donor advised funds. And yeah, we've done a few different things over the years. I can't speak to the last couple years, but I know there's a certain amount of that fund that needs to be dispersed each year. I know it's a small amount.
That's right. Yep, and that's just as a 501c3, we have to retain compliance with the IRS. Shoot, and so we have to make sure that the funds are moving. So we appreciate your help in complying with that.
I have another question. This might be dumb. I gave a few donations last December to CHF as memorials to some of my grandpuppies. And I can't remember that there was ever a spot, they gave me who I wanted it as a memorial. I don't remember if it said Spinoni. I think I did oncology, and is there when you go on to donate just as a single person, just to donate, is there a section for breed?
Yes, it's
Okay,
actually a
so
section
maybe
for,
I did. I don't remember that part.
yeah, we can certainly. Fleming, do you want to write down Mary's name and check for her? Thank you. You can email her,
That's
but
okay. I don't care.
we'll
I
follow
just-
up after. But absolutely. And Sue, I can send you that link so that you have it. So if you want to make a donation online, you can, and you can directly select the Spinoni Donor Advised Fund. So it's already designated.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And Tina,
Yeah.
get that to you as well to maybe put on the website.
Yeah, I'm thinking we have it on the website somewhere, but let's make sure that we have the right URL.
Yeah.
So if someone did make a donation with Spinoni specific, that would show up then on the quarterly statement that SCOA gets.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So, it helps us a ton in the office. If you put in your memo field, the check would be, if it's a check, you can totally go online and select that. If it's a check, to AKC Canine Health Foundation, but in the memo field, designate it to the, SCOA Donor Advised Fund. And then that would absolutely get deposited right in there, and your statement would show that as a contribution.
Great.
Fleming, did you want to?
I actually, if it would make it easier too.
This is Kay McClellan. Where does the statement go to? Does that go to our treasurer, secretary? Where does that go to?
President, treasurer, secretary, and health liaison. And we can modify that if you guys want.
We get that, Kay. We've had it. We just didn't know what we were looking at, I think, and didn't really understand it at the time.
That's
But
what started this, yeah.
I think Kim
Yeah.
passes that on to the health committee when she gets it.
I do. Yeah, I think
And
I'd
then-
like to see that. I mean, it would be something to look at. Thank you.
Yeah, I think also what I can do to help facilitate donations directly to your donor advised fund, if this is something y'all are pursuing, and Andrea can direct me after her follow-up conversations with y'all. I've done this for a couple of clubs where I make you your own special form where the only thing you can select is Spinoni. And so that way not that we don't want people to donate to our general cancer program area or anything like that. They can use a different form for that and go directly through our website. But if you wanted to have something on the Spinoni Club website and that above it said donate to our unique fundraising efforts, we can make a dedicated giving form that will only allow them to check Spinoni.
Good idea.
Yeah, I like that plan. That's a good, I like that. That's good. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Well, Andrea and Fleming, thank you so much. We so appreciate your time and your information. I hope everybody that's been on this call has kind of been enlightened. Like, holy cow, we can do that. Let's move it. Let's do it. And also, if there's anybody out there that's making a will and you have funds and you don't have any kids to donate it to, you can do this, and it goes directly to Spinoni. You know, we've had people in the past that we've lost that we've got their money floating around, and what do we do with it? Well, here's our answer. So
Yeah, and I absolutely talk to Fleming about that. That's our Heritage Society, and she can help facilitate that. So
I would love
yeah,
that. And yeah, there's special benefits if you're in the Heritage Society too. We just keep you updated through more channels and things like that because we want to recognize you in this lifetime.
okay, well, thank you, everybody, and I'll look for that URL, Andrea, and I'll get it to you, Tina. And Kay, we've got we've got that statement. I'll find it and get it to you. And yeah, okay, I guess we're
thank
done.
you all
Thank
so much.
you.
We appreciate your commitment to your
Thank you.
dogs and to their health.
Thanks
Thank
everybody
you,
for
ditto.
coming. So glad to see everybody.
you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.